see. Where is it? Um, all right. All right. I guess let's get into it. Well, week 3 is here for college football. And yeah, the SEC. Big week for the SEC. We got a couple big games this week. We got Texas A&M, Miami. Doesn't look as big as what it was prior to last week, but it's still going to be a pretty big game. Mississippi State, LSU, Penn State, Auburn, Georgia, South Carolina. Again, this one doesn't look as big as what it did in the preseason, but still. Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, and yeah. A couple other decent ones we'll talk about today, mainly Vandy, but let's just get these ones over with. Alabama, Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Missouri will all roll this week, or they're expected to roll. Nothing I could really say about any one of these games. I guess for Kentucky, I will say watch out because it seems like every season they have one weirdish game where they struggle against an FCS or a Group of 5 team. Last year, it was Chattanooga. One year, it was like Miami of Ohio or something like that. I mean, these are not great teams, and Kentucky finds ways, to play them close. But anyway, Alabama should roll against UL Monroe. The spread is 47, I think. Kentucky, like I just said, I have them winning by 39. I think I had 42-3, something like that. Bama had 56-7. Bama can win however much they would like, I'm pretty sure. Arkansas plays Missouri State. I need Arkansas's pass defense to improve. I mean, they're sitting in the 120s in pass defense. That's terrible. They're giving up over 320 yards passing a game. That's insane. Then you got Tennessee. They're going to put up 60 points on Akron. I had that 66-10 or something like that. Tennessee can score as much as they can, as much as they want against Akron. Akron's just not that good. And then Missouri. Yeah, Missouri had rolling this week as well. So let's talk about this, I guess, relatively decent game. Vanderbilt against Northern Illinois. Vandy's actually a road underdog in this game. I guess that's not really too surprising, but if you've seen Vanderbilt in the first 2 weeks of the year, well, technically week 0 and week 1, Vandy was playing really, really well. They had that shaky game against Elon. They were up 35-10. I mean, Vandy doesn't have that much depth, and it shows. But they were up 35-10, ended up getting outscored. What was that? 21-7 in the final quarter or something like that. Nothing to, feel great about, but we saw that game against Hawaii. Actually beat Hawaii worse than Michigan did. Gave Hawaii their worst loss of the year. Hawaii is absolutely terrible. But it's something to think about. Northern Illinois, they're 1-1 on the season. Their loss came to, I'm drawing a blank. They lost to Tulsa last week on the road. Tulsa's a decent team. They're not going to be doing much, in my opinion, this year in the AAC. But, Northern Illinois just won the MAC last year. They bring back a good couple of players like Rocky Lombardi, the starting QB. He was a transfer from Michigan State. They got Ontario Brown, starting running back. He's okay. And then Cole Tucker's their leading wide receiver. coming into this game. Who's going to be starting quarterback for Vandy this week? Is it going to be Mike Wright? I'm pretty sure it is. Mike Wright, first 2 games, looks like a really, really, really good QB. Last game when he played a really good team, not a really good team, but a good Wake Forest team, he looked pretty bad. They couldn't move the ball. It was raining, but still, they put in the backup QB, and the backup QB comes in, throws some great passes, and gets Vandy on the board consistently. They scored 25 against Wake Forest. Wake Forest's defense gave up 45. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game, just like it was for the Elon game. But I actually had Vandy pulling this one out on the road. Yes, I'm going to take Vandy in their second road victory in a row this year. I have Vandy winning this game 38-28. I think Vandy offensively will be able to run the ball on Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois gave up, let's see. They didn't give up too many yards rushing against Tulsa. They gave 107. That's not great. They struggled to win against Eastern Illinois. Gave up 165 yards rushing. This is a midway, decent rush defense, like an average rush defense. But I think Vandy's going to be able to get this one done and pull an upset, I guess. They're about a 2-point dog. 2.5. Some places even have them as a 3-point underdog. Next game, let's talk about Florida. Florida comes in, number 18, Florida comes in this week as a 23.5-point home favorite against South Florida. They played South Florida last year, could not cover the spread. Ended up winning that game, 42-20, something like that. A lot of Florida fans, I will be real, are, up and down with Billy Napier so far. You lost to Kentucky. Kentucky's a pretty good team. You ended up beating Utah. A lot of Florida fans actually had that switched preseason. I don't know too many Florida fans that thought they would actually go 2-0 in that stretch. I didn't think Florida would go 2-0. I think they would go 1-1, and they go exactly what I thought they did in the preseason: beat Utah and then lose to Kentucky. But look at that Utah game. There's not going to be many teams that are going to hold, especially on Utah's schedule, that are going to hold Utah to 26 points. Florida's defense has played really, really well this year. They looked even better against Kentucky, completely made Kentucky one-dimensional. Anthony Richardson threw a pick six, and then I think didn't Kentucky score on that other interception? Yeah, they scored a touchdown. Take away that, and Florida wins. But unfortunately, their offense came a bit flat, and Kentucky has a really, really, really good defense. Kentucky's a top 20 defense. Kentucky is a top 15 team right now, for sure. I think Kentucky's ranked 9th, yeah. But Florida, I think I'm going to say this about South Florida. South Florida is not good. Is South Florida getting better? Yeah. They're preseason wise, I think they were set at 2.5 wins. That is absolutely terrible. That might be lower than Vandy. But yeah, South Florida, Gary Bohannon's their quarterback, threw 2 interceptions in the first 2 games. South Florida's just not that good. I actually like Florida in this game. I think, I mean, obviously, I'm definitely taking Florida. I'm also taking Florida to cover. Florida is a 23.5-point favorite. I definitely think Florida can potentially even double that. I think they take out a lot of frustration for the first 2 weeks and beat South Florida 41-10, especially with that run game. I want to see more ETN action. He's clearly the most talented running back on Florida's roster. I mean, we've seen that in the first 2 weeks. I mean, isn't he averaging like 7 yards a carry or something like that? Let me check that for you real quick. Trevor Etienne, 8 yards per carry. He needs the ball more, in my opinion. Again, he's just a freshman. But he's played really, really well. And yeah, obviously, Montrell Johnson, he's been playing well. Florida's rush offense is really, really good. Exactly what I thought they would be. A really good rush team. Now, can Anthony Richardson make plays through the air? His first 2 games, he's thrown for just 311 yards. 0 touchdown passes, but 2 interceptions. His his QBR is pretty low too, 48.4. That's not great, but he's just got a lot of talent and he's got a lot to grow. I get it, but I'm really, really high on Anthony Richardson. No one calls him AR-15 anymore, but I'm really, really high on Anthony Richardson. Even as a Georgia fan, I've always liked him even out of high school. And I believe in Billy Napier to bump him up as well. But Florida's defense is actually really, really good. They're going to be top 25 this year, especially. But I have Florida winning this game. And next up, how about Ole Miss, ranked 20th in the country, going on the road, actually, to take on Georgia Tech. Ole Miss, let's be honest here. Has Ole Miss's offense been what we thought it would be? No, it's just been disappointing, honestly, and mainly their passing offense. They had one of the better passing quarterbacks last year at Matt Corral. This year, Jackson Dart has struggled. Even Luke Ockmeyer has struggled. Who's going to be the starting QB? I don't know. Is it going to be Ockmeyer or is it going to be Jackson Dart? I don't know if I don't want to say it doesn't really matter for this game, but Georgia Tech is not a good team. We saw that game against Clemson. They hung in there. They hung in there with Clemson. Clemson kind of ran the score up. I mean, that's what Clemson does. But they don't have a good head coach. Coach Collins is not a good head coach. I am sorry. I really am impressed with Ole Miss's defense. I think it's just as good as what it was in the last 6 or 7 games last year. Their offense, their passing offense is just not good. Now, I get it. Zach Evans is having a solid year. And then you got their other back, Quishon Judkins. He's a true freshman. He's having a good year. Ole Miss can run the ball. They can run the ball. They're one of the better rush offenses in the country right now. To me, they haven't looked like a top 25. They haven't looked like a top 20 team. Go back to that Troy game. They really struggled in the second half against Troy. Kind of didn't really make any sense. I'm going to take Ole Miss. By the way, they're a 17-point favorite. I'm going to take Ole Miss. I think they'll be that's exactly what I thought the score would be. 34-17, a 17-point spread. Over-under is set at over-under thinks it's going to be a shootout. I don't think it will necessarily be a shootout, but I do like I like Ole Miss. I don't know about covering, though. When I was thinking about it, I think Ole Miss is a 2 or 3 score. There's 2 or 3 scores better than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is just not that good, in my opinion. I have not been a fan of Coach Collins since day one. I think he can recruit relatively well. His on-the-field coaching is not great. And we saw that against Clemson especially. They should not have lost that game by 31. So there's that. Next up, though, we're going to talk about my dogs. Georgia goes on the road to play South Carolina. Georgia's ranked number 1 in the country. South Carolina, 1-1. South Carolina, offensively, it looked kind of bad against Georgia. Georgia State started really, really slow against Arkansas. Started to find something defensively. I mean, you gave up 44 to Arkansas, but Arkansas is a really, really, really good offense. Arkansas is going to be hard to stop this year. They are on it. They are on it. They could be. Arkansas can win the SEC West. I think that's truth. South Carolina, though, a lot of people thought this game could be like Georgia's. Could be a game Georgia could end up losing in the preseason. Now, not so much. Georgia's already a 25-point favorite in this one. Over-under is set at 55. Georgia's a 25-point favorite on the road. Georgia has the number 1 – breaking news. Georgia has the number 1 scoring defense in the country. Did anyone else think that would happen? I don't know. Believe it or not, a lot of people didn't. So there's that. Georgia comes in, like I said, 25-point favorite. So we'll see. We'll see about that line. Coach Beamer, what does he do? He plays and his team plays really, really hard to the last whistle. You kind of like that from him. So, South Carolina barely covered last year. Georgia was beating them really, really bad. Spencer Rattler hasn't looked the best. If we're being honest, 603 yards passing in 2 games. Hey, that's pretty good. Problem is he's got 3 interceptions and he's been sacked a couple times. Is the sacks 100% his fault? Not entirely, but the interceptions are. These are bad interceptions too. I think he threw one last week. Yeah, one last week. And then how about Marshawn Lloyd? He hasn't done anything this year. And this was a guy a lot of South Carolina fans were really, really high on. This offense is clearly one-dimensional. They can't run the ball. I don't expect them to do anything against Georgia. I think they'll play us really, really hard. But I got the dogs rolling. And Georgia's last week, a lot of people were, looking at it, and they were like, well, Georgia's just overrated. They barely beat Samford. It was 33-0. Well, that's not barely beating Samford. Georgia played really, really hard. Second half just slept walk. They won the second half 3-0. But for this game, I expect Georgia to come out on fire. It's a noon game, though. These are always tricky games. Last time we played South Carolina at noon, we lost. It was at home. So you could also think like that. Georgia's just been the best team in the country. Honestly, the most consistent team that we've seen in the first 2 weeks. I know we slept walked through Samford, 33-0. First half, Georgia was really moving the ball at will the first 3 quarters. And the fourth quarter happened. We're running the dang clock out. But yeah, I want to see more carries in this game, in my opinion. I'm not saying South Carolina has a bad defense. They're just going to be outmatched. They won't have enough athletes, in my opinion. There's that. Man, I'm moving through these games pretty quickly. But I have Georgia winning this one 41-14, barely covering that 25. I should have been talking about the bets. So if you're betting this game, I would probably stay away from this game. I do think Georgia's 25 points are better than South Carolina. I had them winning by 27. The problem is when Georgia and a lot of teams get up big, they put in their second strings while the opposing team's still using their first strings. So, but I guess if you put a gun in my head and told me I had a pick, I would probably take Georgia in the 25. It is a noon game, though. Those are always tricky. Anyway, moving on. Penn State and Auburn. Penn State is only a 3-point road favorite. Penn State has looked way better than Auburn all year, all season so far. Penn State has has Sean Clifford. Their passing offense has been, what it has been. Sean Clifford's throwing for 500 yards. The problem in the past, especially with last year with Penn State, was rush offense. They really couldn't run the ball on Purdue. Purdue's not a great defensive team. Purdue's not going to be holding teams to under 100 yards rushing like they did to Penn State. Now, Penn State turned it on last week with the rush offense against an inferior opponent. Kind of had to do that. But I was watching that Purdue game, and I definitely thought at the time Auburn had a good shot at winning this game until I saw Auburn's offense. Auburn's offense has been terrible. Let's just call it as it is. Auburn's quarterback situation is bad. They played San Jose State really, really close. And I told people to jump on that San Jose State plus 20 or whatever the line was insane. I told people to jump on San Jose State plus 24. I knew Auburn wasn't good enough to do that. TJ Finley, again, played really, really bad. Ashford played really, really bad. Zach Calzada is third string. He transferred from A&M just to be third string at Auburn. But TJ Finley has been pretty bad. Ashford's not any better. Obviously, Calzada is not good because he's not on the field. But I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. This has to be if Auburn wants to win this game. They're going to have to control the clock. They're going to have to find a way to keep Penn State's offense off the field. I'm not saying Penn State has an elite offense. I'm saying they have a pretty solid offense. Yeah. Auburn can run the ball. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball on Penn State. Penn State's got a really, really, really good front. This is a 3:30 game. This is actually the SEC game of the week. Kind of a puzzler there. This was actually a predetermined SEC game of the week. This actually was a preseason. They did this in preseason. They picked this game over A&M, Miami, which we'll talk about later, Mississippi State, LSU, even Georgia, South Carolina. I'm not saying Georgia and South Carolina, that's going to be a good game, but they picked this game, and I think this is going to be a pretty good game. However, I'm going to take Penn State. Penn State's a 3-point road favorite. That's honestly exactly right. I think Penn State's going to win by a field goal. Maybe it'll be a last-second field goal. I mean, originally it was up to 4, and I was like, I might take Auburn in the 4. No, it was up to 4.5. 4.5 is another weird number. Speaking of weird numbers, we'll talk about one coming up here soon. But I was really, really, really wanting to go with Auburn. Then I saw them play against San Jose State. They looked pretty bad offensively. And it's mainly with their passing offense. They don't have a great QB. They're going to have to come in and run the ball. Do you really think they're going to come in and run the ball down Penn State's throat? I don't see that happening. I'm sorry. That's why I'm going to take Penn State. I'm also going to I would stay away from betting this game unless you're really, really, really certain Auburn is going to win this game, because then you just take Auburn money line. And I don't even know what it is. My guess would be minus 145, which is a good bet in my opinion for that. Yeah. No, I mean, plus 118. It's pretty close. Why did I say 145? I was thinking about Penn State. But yeah, I'm going to take Penn State in this game. This could be a really, really good game. But anyway, moving on. We have 2 more games to cover already. I kind of moved through these quickly. How about Mississippi State? Mississippi State goes on the road to LSU. Let's talk about Mississippi State for a second here. Mississippi State's defense has been playing really, really well, giving up 20 points per game to 2. I mean, Memphis is a solid AAC team, and I think Arizona is much better than what people say. And they're not going to be the worst team in the Pac-12 this year, and that's pretty obvious. Colorado is absolutely terrible. Colorado has the worst rush defense on planet Earth. They're giving up over 300 yards per game, and they have to play at Minnesota, who's one of the best rush offenses in the game. I see that line. This isn't SEC, but that line is 26. I would jump all over that. Heck, Minnesota might win that game by 50. I'm not even kidding. They will run all over Colorado. But Arizona went on the road, beat San Diego State. That's a good win. They blew them out. It was like 38-20, and it was only 38-20 because they had a block punt with 2 minutes left in the game. Mississippi State, they're not going to run down your throat, obviously. They're going to pass it down your throat. Will Rogers completing almost 80% of his passes, as we kind of expect with an air raid, just saying. It's got to be over 70 to be, somewhat liable. But they spread the ball out really, really well. Mississippi State's wide receiving core is pretty solid. They absolutely demolished Arizona last week. That was a slaughter. Ended up only being 39-17, it looks like. But my goodness, was that game not close. LSU, on the other hand, I'm going to talk about Ra Thomas, a fun name, Mississippi State wide receiver, plays the outside. My phone's acting up. I was trying to get more stats on here. But Mississippi State's going to spread the ball out. LSU, on the other hand, week 1, let's talk about their week 1 loss. They came out flat. If we're being honest, if they played again, LSU would win. I think they're better than Florida State. Problem is, Brian Kelly came out there really, really flat. Offensive line played really, really bad. Going up against a pretty, I would say slightly above average Mississippi State front four. Slightly above average is about right. But LSU's offensive line is just, it's pretty bad. They didn't give Jaden Daniels any time, especially in that first half, to throw the ball. And LSU's wide receivers didn't help him either. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where things actually started to click for LSU. And it was by then, I'm not going to say it was too late, but you would have much rather had that back in the third or even second quarter. They would have blown out. Not blown out, but they would have won the game. LSU let me down week one. I took LSU in the 3.5, I think. Yeah, I got it at 3.5. That was weird. That was actually surprised it was that low. Florida State's a good team. Florida State's an 8-win team, in my opinion. If LSU wants to get to 8 wins, they got to start it right here and win this game. They're going to have to be able to run the ball on Mississippi State. They're going to have to keep Will Rogers in check. He's going to pass for yards on LSU. I honestly think he's going to be able to go up and down the field. Now, Mississippi State, I'm not saying they're slow and methodical, but they do use up clock. They're not going to be out on the field. They're not going to be out on the field for 2 or 3 minutes of drive. No, their first game, they were out in the field for 41 minutes. Talk about absolutely dominating Memphis. Their second game, they were out in the field for, I think, 38 against Arizona. So they're going to try to control the clock. It's LSU's job to keep them off the field. Can LSU do it? I think LSU can win the battles defensively a couple times, and then can their offense score? Mississippi State doesn't have a world-breaking defense, but their defense is not bad at all. Mike Lee, this looks like a really, really, really good Mississippi State team. Just like with Gardner Minshew. This is what this team reminds me of, that 2018 Washington State team that ended up almost winning they always almost win, by the way, the North Division. Choked it away, I think, to Stanford. It's to Stanford. But this team reminds me of that team. A team that's got a really good QB and a great defense, or not a great, but a solid defense to help win games. You're going to be scoring 30 points almost every game. The air raid is pretty much hard to stop. I'm not saying it's impossible to stop. Really only Nick Saban. Really only Nick Saban's been consistently shutting this offense down. And because he's got really, really, really fast, speedy nickels and good cornerbacks that play very well disciplined. I like Mississippi State this year. I think I had them at 7-5. I think they could possibly – they look like an 8 or 9 win team, honestly. Maybe if they're lucky, if they play – a little bit better. I'm not saying they're playing bad defense, but a little bit better through the ground. Yeah, they can win 9 games. Mississippi State's a 2.5-point favorite. Who did I go with this game? I went with the hotter team. Mississippi State looks really, really good. They are a top 20 team. I do not know why they're not ranked. Why is Ole Miss number 20? The rankings make no sense. I don't really care about them. I want to see LSU bounce back, but I don't think it's this week. I think Mississippi State is just good enough. Special teams has kind of been an issue, though, with Mississippi State in the past, especially in some of their bigger games. I'm relying them to win by a field goal. That might be a push. They don't have, like I said, they don't have great special teams. What did LSU struggle with week one? Special teams. But I'm going to go with the veteran QB, the better QB, and the offensive line is really where I draw the line with LSU. Their offensive line is just not good enough. That's just my opinion. Brian Kelly will fix that in time. It's going to take a couple years of how bad that offensive line played. But I got Mississippi State going on the road and beating LSU in Baton Rouge 31-28 on a night game too. And finally, the big one, or as it was supposed to be, Number 13, Miami goes on the road to take on Texas A&M. Texas A&M, depending on the website you're betting on, is either a 5.5 or 6-point home favorite after getting humiliated at home to Appalachian State. Let's talk about this game. I watched every second of the A&M Appalachian State game. It was a fluke loss. I don't want to take anything away from Appalachian State. Texas A&M was not the better team that day. They are the better team every other day. They would beat Appalachian State probably by, I know 9 out of 10 times, maybe 29 out of 30 times. A couple of those times, they would end up, winning like 21 to 17 or something close. The problem was Texas A&M's offense, very, very, very atrocious. Haynes King got benched. He just did. Haynes King got benched. Max Johnson is in. Why did Haynes King get benched? He can't read a defense. That's the biggest takeaway. From what I've seen him play now 3 full games against Kent State, against Sam Houston State, and now against Appalachian State. He's just not there yet. He's got a lot of talent. He's very, very, very fast. He adds that element to the rush game. But they also don't have a rush game either. Texas A&M's offense as a whole is one of the worst offenses in the country. But going back to Haynes King, he can run the ball. He has a strong arm, and that's really about it. His pre-snap ability isn't up to par. You know whose is, or who's at least a little bit better? Max Johnson. This is why I was a little bit surprised that Max Johnson didn't come in the second half of the Appalachian State game. I'm not saying that was the correct. I'm not saying he would do significantly better, but this team should not have lost to Appalachian State. I am sorry. This team is way too talented to be losing Appalachian State. Now, the average age on Texas A&M is around not 19. I think is it 19.8? So 19 years, 8 months. I think it's 20. It's like around 20. For Appalachian State, it's like 22. Appalachian State is by far, they were the more experienced team. They had 5 and 6 year players who've started for 4 to 5 years. Chase Bryce, their starting QB for Appalachian State, is in his 6th season. I love Chase Bryce, by the way. I think he fits perfectly at Appalachian State. You're significantly more talented than Appalachian State. And if you watch the game, it would literally go like this. 1st and 10, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 2. First down, Appalachian State. A&M was getting worn out. I mean, they only had two possessions in the second half on offense. Appalachian State ran it 52 times for 181 yards. They had really they were really, if we're being honest, they had one really good run, and that was it. All the other rushes, though, were like 3, 4, 5 yards. And usually on first down, they would get 2 or 3 yards. Second down is when they were killing Texas A&M too, because they were getting about 5, 6 yards, and it leaves a 3rd down and short. And Texas A&M could not get off the field. It was a flukish win for Appalachian State. I don't think they could ever do this again at Texas A&M, this same team. I think Texas A&M is going to come out way different this week. I do. I think they're going to – this is a make-or-break game for Jimbo Fisher. If he loses this game, this team might not make a bowl game. I'm dead serious. Reason why this spread is favoring Texas A&M is because of history and what Jimbo Fisher usually does after the second or third game or an embarrassment in the first couple of weeks. Look what he did last year. After, barely beating Colorado, getting absolutely dominated by Arkansas, still only lost by 10, by the way, losing one to Mississippi State. What does he do? Turns around, beats Alabama. Go back to 2020. Week 1. Who do they play? Vandy. That was a flukish game too. A&M ended up winning barely 17-12. They turn around, get absolutely blown out by Alabama. And you know what they do week 3? Beat Florida, who was ranked top 5. 2019. 2019, they had a real – I'm not going to make an excuse. They had a really, really tough schedule. They played 5 top 10 teams and lost all 5 of them. But 2018, his first year, they were up and down for majority of the season, come out, beat LSU in that all-time classic game, and then win. They beat the life out of, was it North Carolina State? It was like 52-10 in a bowl game. This is what Jimbo Fisher does. I need to see more consistent play from the offensive line. The offensive line has not been good for Texas A&M. We saw it last year. It got better. Bryce Foster is still hurt. They need him at guard. But A-Chain cannot really get anything going. I mean, he had 10 carries for 66 yards last week. That's it. He only averages less than 4 yards a carry. He's supposed to be one of the best running backs in the SEC. We saw him against we saw him take back a touchdown to Appalachian State. But again, only two possessions in the second half against App State. What do? Fumble on plus side territory and miss a field goal. They were moving the ball in the second half. Choke. I think it was Evan Stewart just choked that one away and missed the field goal. There is no rhythm with this offense. This is why he had to go to a game manager in Max Johnson. I think the game plan is simple for Texas A&M. They're not going to win a shootout. I'll be surprised if Texas A&M actually gets to like 35 or something. Miami has a really solid defense. I think Miami's defense is going to be a little bit better than what I thought originally. I know they only played Bethune-Cookman in Southern Miss. Southern Miss has no offense, by the way. But you can see they have a lot of speed and athleticism, especially at linebacker or in the front 7. So, but that Southern Miss game was very disappointing too. Southern Miss is not a good team. They're not going to be winning many games this year. Appalachian State is clearly way better than Southern. But what was this about? Miami was struggling offensively. I mean, both teams looked really, really bad last week. One ended up winning. There's a difference. If you win, hey, a win is a win. You won by 23, Miami. Tyler Van Dyke, he didn't look great last week. He didn't look terrible, but kind of struggled early on. They never, ever got it going, too, by the way. Which is a little bit something to think about. I don't think either team's going to run it down either team's throat. I don't think either team's going to blow each other out. And I think these are two evenly matched teams. Texas A&M, they have a little bit more talent. Miami has a little bit more experience, especially at quarterback. Max Johnson, although he does bring in 2 years of experience at LSU, not with Texas A&M, though. This is going to be his first start at home. This is a tough game to predict. This game I would not be surprised if either team won this game either 17-14 or 35-31. I would not be surprised if the game goes anywhere. You know who I'm going with? This might come with a surprise. I'm going with the Aggies. I think the Aggies get it done. I've seen what I've seen from Jimbo Fisher in years past. Like I said, I brought up 2020. I brought up 2021 last year. They beat Bama after an embarrassing start, getting absolutely dominated by Arkansas. Probably should have even should have lost to Colorado, but that was an embarrassing way to win. And then 2020, with the way they started, they ended up beating Florida. I think the offense gets a little bit better, but I'm relying on this defense. Like I said, A&M has to control the clock. They're going to have to control the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's kind of obvious, But I mean, for real, you can't get dominated by Appalachian State on the line of scrimmage. That just can't happen. Yes, Haynes King played pretty bad, right? Again, he doesn't have the, in my opinion, IQ, the football knowledge to understand the defensive packages. And that was just App State. Max Johnson is much better pre-snap than Haynes King, and I think that's a huge difference. He's not going to be rushing for 8 or 9 yards a carry like Haynes King was, or whatever he is at. Let me confirm that. Rushing. Well, he was at like 4 yards per carry. That's including sacks. But, I mean, he's not going to get you a first down with his feet many times. Haynes King can. But he can get you a first down with his football IQ. I'm taking A&M. Technically, I am laying the 6, but or 5.5. But I wouldn't be surprised if they won by a point or whatever. I am going with A&M in this game. I think because this is a bounce or a make it or break game for Jimbo Fisher, he has to win this game. If he loses, the season is more than just over for Texas A&M. I mean, it could be. I mean, we could look at an all-time low. They won't even get to 8-4 for sure. If you start 1-2, there's no way you're going 8-4. And that's. I know it's Texas A&M. That's kind of the goal this year, to get to 8-4 with this young, talented defense. With this young, talented team, I mean, as a whole, really, but especially the defense and offensive players as well. But with this young team, if you can get this team to 8-4 after losing to Appalachian State, there is a shot they could be really, really, really good next year. And that's kind of the mindset. I hope coaches aren't really thinking about that. But if you're a fan of Texas A&M, you got to think like that. If you can somehow manage to get to 8-4, you're going to have to win this game, though, because look at their next couple of games are insane. But get to 8-4 after losing Appalachian State, that's at least something to grab a hold of. But anyway, I'm going to get to some of your comments. I'm going A&M, by the way. But anyway, A&M will be lucky to win 2 of their next 4 games. Fisher can't develop QBs, and their players don't show effort. He can actually develop QBs. The problem is his QBs these past couple of seasons have been pretty bad. That's why he went in the transfer portal. There's a chance. Listen, if they lose to Miami, they could go 0-6. I'm dead serious. I'm not saying Miami's bad, but then they'll be looking at 1-2, and their season will actually be over. In fact, that could be a program changing. That App State could be a program-changing loss. But I am going with Texas A&M. This is the big game. This is a 9:00 game. The fans will be there. It will be. I think it's sold out again. This is a make or break. A&M's laying it all on the line on this game. They just have to. They have to. If they don't, I don't know what Jimbo Fisher's doing. But if they don't lay it out on all on the line, I think they'll be ready for this game. Miami, they struggled week 2 against Southern Miss. Not like that matters, but I think there's film to watch and watch how well Southern Miss actually played. Not really on the line of the scrimmage, but their DBs kind of controlling the first half. Their offense, Southern Miss has no offense. I'm just being real. If Miami played App State, obviously I'd take Miami, but I think that'd be a good game. I think that would be a pretty good game. I'm not saying they'd lose. Texas A&M lost. I'd say it'd be a pretty good game. App State is not a bad team at all. Southern Miss is. App State is not. App State might win their conference, honestly. That's not the standard, though, for Texas A&M. You should never lose to a Sun Belt team. But App State's not a pushover. And I will never, ever, ever agree with any Aggie fan or any other fan telling me they lost because they were looking ahead. That is a terrible excuse. No, they lost because they were not the better team that day, period. Texas A&M was not better than Appalachian State. Are you kidding me? number one, Texas A&M had the ball for 17 minutes. Appalachian State had the ball for 43 minutes. What is your defense supposed to do? I mean, obviously, it's kind of a miracle. Texas A&M held them to 17. It could have been worse with how some of these stats look. But I think Max Johnson, him coming back to be the QB, or him leading or starting for the first game this year, adds more pre-snap ability. Better. I think he is also a better passer than Haynes King, and their offensive line needs to step up. Bryce Foster missed the first 2 games. Is he back? I'm not sure if he's back yet. They need him back at guard. I'm telling you, Landon Robinson's pretty good. Father Lee. But Texas A&M's offensive line has not really shown up this year again, like it did last year. I think I'm really going with Jimbo Fisher in this game. We've seen what he did in the past. I think their defense is going to get some turnover. They're going to have to force some turnovers as well and make Tyler Van Dyke uncomfortable. And I think they'll do all of that. It's going to be a good game regardless. I could see this going either way. I doubt either one of these teams blow each other out. And I think the most I could see either one of these teams winning by is 14. Maybe like 35-20 or 28-14, something like that. And if it's 28-14, I'm going Miami. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go with the Aggies. And how about I do this? I'm going to try to do this every week. The best play of the week in the SEC. This is tricky. I think this one is kind of clear this week. Florida minus the 23.5. South Florida's not good. South Florida got blown out by BYU. BYU's a good team. I get it. BYU's not better than Florida. They are not. They would lose to Florida too. And I think Florida's defense is obviously really good enough to hold South Florida under 20 points. And I think their offense is going to surpass 40. I had it 41-10. That's kind of me lowballing it, but I'm definitely taking that 23.5. So yeah, guys, that's my play of the week. Those are my predictions. Let us know what you guys think. I only did SEC because obviously I'm on the SEC channels, but let me know what you guys think. Who are you guys taking for some of these bigger games? There's actually a couple big games this week, especially the A&M game. That's a huge game for the SEC. Mississippi State and the ACC. Mississippi State, LSU, that's a big game. Auburn, Penn State, Georgia. Get Georgia get upset this week? I absolutely doubt it, but hey, anything's possible. Ole Miss, Georgia Tech could be a sneaky good game. I don't know. Ole Miss's offense has not played well at all, as we're being honest. But let us know. Let us know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Georgia fans, I will see you tomorrow after, win or lose, after the South Carolina game. But everyone else, I'll see you guys. If you're not watching the Georgia post game, I'll see you guys next week for the week 4 predictions. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys. Peace.